Welcome everyone. We're going to be looking at alphas today to take a model like this to the next level because doing it by hand is just not really feasible. You know, at this level of detail, it's just going to take you weeks to detail something like this to the level that I want to take it to. So alphas is perfect for that. And now obviously there's a number of ways you can do it. You can go on somewhere like Pixel download some ones that have already been done. There's nothing wrong with that. You can use some images you found on the internet, taken yourself, put them through some photo editing software similar to what I'm going to do. It's going to do the same thing for you. But let's say that you're like me, and I usually use 2 to 3 layered textures on on something like this, and I kind of know what I want. So for that, I'm gonna have to make it myself. Unless I find something on the internet, I'm extremely lucky. But with this channel, I want to do as much as I can myself, and that includes all the texturing too. So I'm going to be using Photoshop because it's what I'm used to. But if you don't have that, you could use something like Krita, which is free. Great software. I haven't used it in years, but from what I remember, it was really, really good. So you can use that. And at the end of the video, I just want to go through a few tips on applying some of them, just so that it will look a bit more organic in the way you apply it to the model, and less like a stamp, which can kind of ruin the flow of some of your details. So we'll have a look at that when the brushes are done. But for now, we are going to leave Blender and go into Photoshop, and I will see you there. Okay, we're back in Photoshop now. And we have got our 50% gray 1000 by 1000 300 dpi canvas, and the first thing we're going to do is create a base skin texture that this will be the first one that's applied to the model, and we can build up details from there. This is also a really good texture if you're doing a human character. um, at least it works for my sort of models because my stuff is quite stylized. If you're doing super realistic, you're gonna have to do a few tweaks to this and add some textures to it. But for a nice base texture, this works really well. So 2 layers of 50% gray here. This is the one we're going to be working on, and all I'm going to do, there's no drawing or anything with this one. All I'm going to do is add a noise filter to it. So add noise, 50%, monochromatic, we don't need color. Okay, gonna blur it straight away because alphas do not like things super clear. Blur of 2, that's fine. Now, I found that the vivid, vivid light works really well with this because it brings out the black in this, which could be your pores. Um, so I know it doesn't look like much at the moment, but when it goes on the model, you'll see what I mean. But what we are gonna do is add a levels, I think. No, I think we'll go with curves. Let's grab this from another monitor. Okay, let's pull these blacks down a bit and bring this up so it brightens it. So you can see we're keeping those blacks, but we're just going to raise the brightness a little bit more. Yeah, let's give that a go, see how it goes. Get rid of that. Okay. Now, last thing I'm going to do is create a layer on the top of these, and I'm going to fill it with black to blur the edges out a bit so we can blend it a bit easier when we're doing multiple stamps on the model. So paint bucket, yeah, that's fine. How's that looking? Yeah, that's better, much better. Okay, now let's see how it looks on the model. So we've got our normal brush here, which we're gonna create a duplicate of. We'll call this skin. I'm going to go into brush settings, hit the texture, new. We're going to open it. Okay, so skin. What we're going to do is we're going to hit the little shield so we don't lose this texture if we change brushes. Back to the brush settings, and you're going to need to change some things here. So we don't want tiled. What we want is area plane, and we also want the stroke to be anchored so we can pull the texture out and change the size and rotation on the fly. What we got at 0.2, that's okay. Let's have a look. See, that's not bad, is it? I mean, this is 0.2 is probably still too strong. Let's go to 0.1. Let's go here so we're not confused. Yeah, see, that's much better. Much better. So I mean, this works great for just texture. And if you add this with kind of some bumps and things like that, it works really well. You know, I mean, obviously it's pretty basic. So if you're going to do a super detailed model where you're going to come up real close to it, you're going to need to do some work. But you know, this kind of thing, I mean, I'm not really going to be getting any closer than this. So this is a very, very subtle layer to this model. And don't forget, if you hold control, you've got the opposite, right? So the brush will be negative. So you can put in a few of those kind of strokes too, just to give you that kind of bump. You know what I mean? So yeah, just cover the model in this. And like I said, for me, this is just the first pass. So the main one I want to do is the next brush, because I want to add kind of like a scaly look to this guy. In fact, I may not actually use this base texture. I just wanted to show you guys it because it's just so easy to make. And it could get you out of some trouble if you need to do a quick skin texture, you know, just to kind of give that slight roughness to a surface. But I might use it. I don't know yet. We're gonna see what the texture looks like with it first. Okay, that's brush number one. So number two, we will go back to Photoshop and work on the next brush. Now this one, like I said, is going to be my main texture. So whichever one you decide to use, you know, obviously you're not always going to use a texture like this, a scales one, but whatever is your main texture, you just take some time on it, you know, to get it right, because it is important. I find that I'm the fussiest with this stage. So we're going to use the lasso tool for this because I want a nice hard edge to the shapes. And we're going to blur it later on anyway, you know, to kind of get that gradient. But I want to draw them with a hard edge. So again, keep it real graphic, simple. You know, it doesn't have to be detailed. So start one shape, shift so we can do multiple selections. You got a little plus there, like on the lasso tool. I'm gonna do another one, and this is basically just all it is. Well, this texture is going to be anyway. And you can even get more detailed if you want. You know, you can go and zoom in, fill out some of this negative space, holding shift all the time so you don't lose your selections. You know, nice and easy. Therapeutic. Get some music on. Just do this for a while. Okay. Once you've done that, and you're happy with all your shapes, just give it some, well, let's say above halfway. Paint bucket tool and fill them. Control D, deselect, and that's the basis of what we're going to do with this texture. I'm not going to fill this whole canvas with it. I figured you really wouldn't want me to do that. You wouldn't want to watch that. So I've already done some where I have filled it. These are just duplicates of this base layer. And what we're going to do is I'm going to start at the top layer and I'm going to blur it. And as I go down, I'm going to blur it slightly less. So, it gets sharper towards the bottom of the stack. What this does is it kind of gives it like a glow. And that glow is important as far as softening the edges so that we don't get these horrible pixely outlines to the shapes. So with this one, let's try blurring it. I don't want to go too far. Maybe 10. So that one will be 10. One below it. We'll come down a bit further. Let's try 5. Yeah. So you can see this haze that we're getting around these shapes. And this bottom one's where it's really going to kick in. And we have to get rid of that real harsh outline. So we're going to go to blur, the Gaussian blur again, the good old Gaussian. No, actually, let's go 3. Okay. Now you can, at this stage, you can put a texture over the top if you want to create that extra layer of noise. I want to keep this quite slick looking. I want these scales to be smooth. That's why I was saying I might not use that skin texture that we just did. I don't know yet, but I'm thinking in my mind it's going to be slick like a snake skin. So we will see. Anyway, I've got this layer at the top here, which is just here for some reason. I'm going to use it, and we're going to create that vignette again. So come down nice and dark, fill it, get the eraser out, boom in the middle. Right, that's our next one. We can do it underneath the skin here, so at least we'll be able to see what it looks like. Yeah, let's go our skin brush. Let's duplicate again so we can get our scales brush in. Scales. Now, I'm going to need to get rid of this. New. Open. Go with this one. And we are going to hit the shield so we don't lose it. But let's go to 0.1. Okay, so let's just put a few strokes in here. This is actually a really nice strength for this brush. This looks pretty good. So you can see here that it's all fairly consistent. If I go put in some larger strokes in, and just rotating so that we get some variation, you can already see how quickly you can build up detail with this approach. Let's go into the skin texture and see how that looks. So, just now and again throwing up the size and rotation just to give some variation in these scales, but that's already looking pretty good, and this is only the second level. The third one will be very subtle. We're just going to make a bump brush. So again, that one, like the skin, is very simple to do. But this scales one, or your main texture, you'll want to take some time on just to get it right. But, yeah, pretty happy with that. Because I want it very subtle, that skin, if I use it, which, you know what, I can't make up my mind, to be honest, whether to use it or not. It looks good. but I think I am getting away from that slickness that I want. I don't know. Anyway, now's a good time to talk about the flow of the texture. What I This is particularly if you're going to go for a high strength. I don't, I've already drawn in a lot of these details like the folds in the skin and things like that. So I want to honor those. That's why I'm keeping everything at a low strength. If you wanted to plan your, say, wrinkles with a texture, then you really need to pay attention to the direction of your stroke. So if, say for this, for instance, if I put the texture this way, it's kind of, it goes against the grain of what I've already put down. Whereas if I rotate it, you can see a lot of my lines going this way are honored, and it kind of, it's just more pleasing, to look at, and it gives you this lovely flow. Yeah, if you angle it this way all the time, obviously you're going to get some kind of repetition, but that's where you throw in some different sizes and slight rotation, things like that, and you can just you can just blend it in. And again, it's a very therapeutic side to it, I find, just sticking on some music and doing this for a while. And it really brings the model to life. And I am not going to be this close to it. I'm probably going to be here. So, I can probably go a lot bigger with this texture if I wanted to. Something like this. Go up around this eye. And then maybe pull from the left at an angle. So cross that over a bit to break up some of those shapes. It's probably worth saying a few things actually on the amount of polys that I have on this, because this is a three-part model. Excuse me. So it's the head, the eyes, the body. Um, each of them are about 12 to 15 million. So pretty high poly, for a mesh. This one here was the original one that I did. This is my first sculpt I actually did in Blender, and I think this was around 3 million. So, I really wasn't utilizing the mesh very well, but I just wanted to redo it kind of for my first video, so it was familiar and just to kind of see how much I've learned since then. So you obviously need a dense mesh, to put these kind of details on. Um, Whether you're doing this in remesh like I'm doing, I've got no plans to rig this or anything. It's just a sculpture. Um, but if you're working with multi-res or stuff like that, you'll be able to do this kind of thing. But yeah, anyway, that is our main texture that we're going to do. So nice and sharp, but not too sharp, right? And I think that looks pretty good. Once you got the model covered, and not forgetting to honor the flow of the subject. So and maybe say if I wanted to get kind of smaller in here to maximize some of these other details, these folds, that's fine, and then get larger as I go out here. You can just play with it, and just pay attention to the areas where you've got stretch and tension, in skin and cloth and things like that. So just pay attention to what you've already done on the model and just accentuate it. Um, it's just so much fun playing with these things. Right, that's our second texture done. And the third one, like I said, is going to be a very subtle texture, so just a few bumps and things. And if you were doing a human character, obviously you wouldn't be putting scales on it, but you could use the bump, just to break up some of the uniform look to the skin. And in fact, let's go back to the skin. You could, if you wanted to, say let's go up to 0.2. And you know, just even putting a few, hold control, you know, some patches in like that to break it up. And then with a few bumps on the top, there you go. But like I said, if you're going to go in really close with this, um, say if you're just doing a head and you're going to zoom right in, you're going to want to do probably 2 or 3 skin textures layered, just because of the amount of kind of scrutiny the details are going to come under. So just bear that in mind. I mean, I'm going to be quite far away, so you can see these details look good from this distance. That's all I'm worried about. Um, so just, you know, do what's right for your model. Anyway, that's brush number 2. Let's get to number 3. Okay, back to Photoshop. And what we can do is we can get rid of all these. We don't need this anymore. Another layer. We need this nice and dark. Yeah, that'll do. Right, what we're going to do with this is, like the scales, we're going to use the lasso brush. And I'm going to zoom in a bit here because I don't want to be too far. I don't want these to be too big. So let's just hold in shift again so we can do multiple selection. And I'm just going to do some kind of shapes like this. And just spread them out, you know. It's quite hard with a texture like this because, you know, whoops, this, you don't want it to be uniform at all. So, you know, kind of, was it? Oh, there we go. So just space out these spots. I'm gonna go for a larger one here. Let's see. You don't need to do many because we're gonna overlap the texture anyway, you know, like we did with the others. That may be too big. I have to take a look at that. Okay. Deselect. Right, now I'm going to duplicate these layers because we're going to do that blurring trick again. We really need to blur these out because right now they're super harsh against this dark background. It would look horrible on the model. So first one, let's try 5. Work backwards. 3 and this one I'll go for 2. What we can do is we can play with the fill here so we can this will cancel out some of the blur, but we'll see what that looks like. I'll do that vignette layer over the top because why not? We've been doing that anyway. Okay, see how that looks. Right, we'll call this bumps. Go back to the model. Another brush. Bumps. Okay, so it's very subtle. But if you're just doing a skin texture for like a human, like I said, you're going to want these kind of things. Um, so, if I just blow up a bit, you can see what it's doing there. And you can see why we needed to blur it, because if I didn't, you'd have this horrible um, kind of jagged edge to these bits. And even at this level, you would probably see it. So, we could just overlap this. Create some interest there, maybe on the lips, give them those froggy lips, those spots on them. So pretty cool, right? Get some on the scales here. Now you can see just using these three together, how much work we've done in such a short period of time that, doing this by hand, insane. And what I'm going to do, because maybe even after I finish this model, I'm going to do some hard surface sculpting. So, I'm going to try and do that, and that will, entail some different alphas to do, which I'm also going to make in Photoshop. So, and what I want to do eventually is create a whole folder of these, so I can you guys can use them when we get a substantial amount in it. But yeah, at the moment, organic. So really fun to play with these. And like I said, you don't want to put it everywhere, just some areas of interest. Like I would probably put some around the eyes. And the scale. So go back to brushes and scales. Yeah, 0.1. So here, oh, that's horrible. I would definitely go smaller. Let's get in there a bit closer. Just to get that detail, and then put some bigger ones maybe over the top. But see, this is why I can't go super high with the strength, because I don't want to take out any of these wrinkles that I've sculpted in here. But if you haven't, if you're a detail level down and this is smooth and you want to build that up with alphas, you can do that, you know. Save yourself some time. There we go. We just blend it all in. Beautiful. Just give it a shot. Creating your own alphas, it's fun. And you've done it yourself, I love doing this kind of thing. I love to try and create what I've got in my mind, and just kind of see it on the model. It's great. I really enjoy doing alphas. So maybe we can discover doing some different ones in the future. But like I said, with the hard surface stuff, that comes with its own challenges, as well as sculpting it too. Pretty pleased with that. So I'm going to go away, put some music on, texture this thing up, and the next stage that I want to share with you guys is the painting, which I haven't done much of in Blender. So I'm really looking forward to that and using the cavity maps and things like that. Really cool. I've got a color scheme all picked out for him, and we're going to see how that looks. So yeah, go away, have some fun, creating alphas, and I hope this video helped you out, and just maybe give you a little bit of confidence in that it's not difficult to do. You don't have to be really good at drawing or painting to create these basic shapes, and look what it does to the model. That's what it is. It's all just to add a little bit of interest to it, not to overtake the model, but just to contribute to it. So have fun, and I'll see you in the next video.